Hello everyone, today I'm going to take you through an acrylic pour process, and this is what we're going for. This is a coffee table I did about a year ago, and you can see all the different cells and the way the paint morphs and moves, and hopefully what we do today will turn out something like this. Okay, so the supplies that I'm going to use today are 4 different colors of paint. I am going to use Flood Floetrol. Now what this is designed for acrylic paints. What it does is it levels out the paint and allows it to flow. This is a liquid silicone, and we're going to use this to create cells in our paint. You'll need red Solo cups, and these numbers that I have on here are for how much paint to put in the cup, approximately. So that would be color 1, color 2, and color 3. And then in the Solo cups, you're going to want to have 1 tongue depressor stir stick in each cup. Also, I like to use a torch at the end. It just creates more bubbles and allows the cells to expand a bit more. All right. So I think the first thing I'll do is go ahead and mix up this can of paint with some Floetrol. Now, this is house paint, and I got it because it said acrylic, and it's in a big quantity, so I can experiment a lot with it. Now, if you look at the paint, it's very thick at first. See, kind of pools up, blobs up on the stick. So I know, or I believe, I have enough Floetrol in here, exactly enough for this particular paint. Now, if you're using craft paints or acrylics, you're going to need a lot more Floetrol because those are almost a thick paste. But for an already thinned out water-based house paint, you don't need as much Floetrol. So that's what I'm going to do here. Just going to dump it all in. See, it's kind of a milky, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Milky white color? No. See, if you look in the paint can there, there's a milky white in there. And that's what the Floetrol looks like. Ooh, see? All right, so I'm gonna pour the rest of this in, almost the rest of it in. I'm pretty confident that this is gonna thin it very good. You know, and I do have the other colors pre-mixed because I know it takes a lot of time to stir this, so I wanted to save a little bit of time for this video. The nice thing about Floetrol is it's designed for paint, so it's not supposed to change the pigments that are in your paint. All right, I'm gonna add the rest of it in there. Ooh, yeah, you can see it's all swirly. So I'm gonna stir that paint in so it's this pink mauve-y color. Oh. And I do have a cold, so if that expresses itself during this video, I apologize. Okay, I can feel how much thinner it is, but I can still see a few little lumps in there, so I'm just going to keep stirring a little bit. You know, I have stirred paint before where the stick will snap. It's so thick of a paint. So what I do is I just pour a little bit of the paint off the top into another container and then mix the remainder that's in the can. Okay, I am happy with that runny consistency. See, it's not pooling anymore. It's super thin. That's what you want. You want it to run off just really, really, really thin off the end of your stick. Okay, look at that. Perfect. Okay. All right, so Floetrol is done. That was the only example I had of an acrylic pour. Okay, so now that I have 4 colors mixed together, I'm going to reserve one color because I'm going to use one color to cover the canvas in one solid paint. And the rest of these 3 colors are all going to go in the cups in those equal increments. I'll show you again. See. That will be color number 1, color number 2, and color number 3. Oh, and I did find some black paint as I was gathering my supplies. And I like to add a little bit of black, especially when I'm working with all pastels, because it tends to separate and move the colors a little nicer. So this is just a, what is it, apple barrel black gloss. And then I have, this is about half full. This is about 3/4 full. This is a black matte. So I'll be adding a little bit of these in there. I do plan to do another short video in the instructions of this Instructable because I want to show you a close-up of what it looks like when you're doing the actual pour and adding the silicone to the paint, because I feel like I'm at such a distance here, you're not going to really be able to see the magic when it's poured in. So I want you guys to be able to experience that. Now, when you're pouring colors in, it is very approximate. If you have a little more, a little less, don't worry about it. You don't have to fret at all. It's this, I'm just adding like a little squirt. Oh, be prepared because this is such a messy project, but I think that's what I like about it. It's messy, it's fun. You'll want to have a lot of drop cloths because paint will go everywhere. This bottle squirt's a little bit weird because I have a marble in it to shake up the Floetrol that was in here. Okay, so just a little bit of black in each cup. And when you have your tongue depressor in there, let it float. Don't stir your paint up. That's one of the keys of this, is to let all of the colors try to float on each other until we flip them onto our canvas. Now, I did try to experiment and fill up a few of these cups and let them sit because I didn't want to spend a lot of time on camera just pouring paint into cups, because I know with a cell phone camera, you're not going to be able to see the close-up of what it actually looks like going into the cup. But the longer I leave it sit, the less interesting the pour will be. So, I can bring it up there and show you what it's looking like in the cup, or at least attempt to. I have taped my cell phone to a ladder, so that's how I'm making this video. A little side note. See, now some of them I'm getting almost a 1/4 cup. Some of them have about 2 tablespoons. And I used maybe a 1/4 of what was left in here, so not very much at all. Okay. So I think I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to add silicone on top of each color because I feel like I have paint on my nose. Because I want to just see like what would happen if I added something in between each layer. A video for class probably isn't the time to experiment, but I haven't ever had one of these fail, so we shall see. Okay, so on top of that, I added that color that we just mixed. It's kind of a pinkish color. And this one is just a light purple. I don't know if you can see it very well in the light in here. I did put a 300-watt light bulb up there, so I'm really hoping you'll be able to see some of the morphs and changes that happen. When I'm pouring, I like to try to pour on the stick and try to avoid mixing the paint as much as possible. I found that with these pastel paints that I don't know if they're just similar in consistency or what it is about them, but they tend to mix a lot easier. So I try to pour on the stick and let it run down the stick and then float on top of the pink. With the black, I just sprayed it in the bottom of the cup, and if I put an 1/8 inch in there, that's a lot, you know. There's just a couple little squirts just to add some sort of color. I don't know what it's gonna do, and that's probably the most fun with doing acrylic pours, because you never know what you're gonna come out with. You know, maybe some of the professionals that do this all the time, they know exactly what it's gonna look like when it comes out, but for me, I don't know. I never know what it's gonna look like. All right, on top of this purple, so now I got purple and pink in there, and a little dot of black. I'm gonna add green. And this is kind of a pastel green. I would call it Martha Stewart's mint green, if you remember, when she had all those beautiful greens. It just reminds me of her. See? Kind of a pastel green. Oh, yes, okay. And then on top of this green, I'm gonna throw, just for fun, a little more silicone. And then on top of the silicone, I am gonna throw a little bit of black, that matte black apple barrel bottle that I showed you. I'm pretty excited to see what this turns out like. I have never done a pour this big. I've had this giant canvas kind of sitting around just waiting for me to do something with it. And when I found out I had to do a video for the class, I looked at that canvas and I thought, that's what I'm doing. So I'm pretty excited to do this today. I hope it turns out. You know, because I kind of only get one shot at this video. Once the paint is poured, it's done. So I hope it turns out good. And you guys get a great idea of how much fun this is. All right, so in each cup, you only want to add, at maximum, 5 drops of silicone. Excuse me, that's that pesky cold kicking in. Yes, 5 drops of silicone is about the maximum. With this silicone, more is not more, but not enough is not enough. So you don't want to add too much because it's gonna, it can, when it dries, it can give your painting like a slimy, yellowy surface, and dust and all kinds of things will stick to it if you don't cover it up. So yeah, you don't want to do any more than 3 to 5 drops per color. Okay, so if I did silicone drops in each color, I'd probably do exactly 3 tiny little drops. But since I'm using 3 colors and a little bit of black, I'd say I have between 3 and 5 drops in each cup. So this black, I'm just gonna run it down the stick so I can make it float on top as much as possible. Because I don't want the black to mix into all the colors. I have one that's pretty full here, so I'm gonna see if I can show you this pouring. Can you see in there all the colors? All right, so I'm gonna pour it down this stick. See, I just floated the black right on top of there. Okay. You know, and this is gonna get messier. Paint is gonna go all over the floor, all over your shoes, you know, just everywhere. I have brought pieces of plywood in, so that way it won't like leak all over the floor. So you can definitely do that. A little bit more black. I ran out of that matte black, so I'm just gonna squirt the last 3 cups with a little bit of this gloss black. Okay. Marble is impeding there. Look at that. There. Great. Perfect. Just enough. Worked out great. Okay. Now the fun part. The canvas. Like I said, I have this huge canvas that I've wanted to do something with. And it's kind of a cheap, bouncy canvas, so I hope that all the paint doesn't pool towards the middle and just land in a giant ball. But if I see it start doing that, I'll remedy it. Okay, so the one color that I reserved back this kind of peachy pastel. Doesn't show up too great on camera. You want to pour this on your canvas about 1/4 inch thick. Normally I don't wear gloves because I like the tactile feeling of the paint. But since I'm making a video, I thought I don't want to run away and wash my hands in between steps, so I'm using gloves, which I think I'm kind of liking. It still feels kind of neat. I don't recommend this for children just because it is such a giant mess. And it involves chemicals and fire. So you want to be a little bit responsible and make good choices when it comes to using children in this process. You want to get the paint just to run down the sides. There. All right, so I'm going to remove these gloves. Save those for later. Okay, so now all of your cups are poured. Each cup should cover, I'd say between 5 and 7 inches. You don't want to stir your colors together. When I take my stick out, all I do is poke it to the bottom, stand it straight up, and lift it out, and then flip. And you want to move swift in this process because you don't want your colors to have time to sit and mix themselves together. And you're going to get full of paint. Oh, look at that black. Can you see the black? I can see the black. This is such a forgiving art. You can play with it, move things around. I mean, you can just experiment. 25. We have 25 cups and then done. And I kind of want to evenly space them. So yeah, you don't need to stir these. You don't need to scrape out the inside of your cup. If you did that, you'd kind of end up with a mixed together color, which is not what we want for this. I'm so glad I found black. I think it's going to be easier for the camera to see. I can already see some neat things happening. I'll take some still shots and include them at the end of this process. I may even take a video to explain what is happening with the paint. But I only have one camera and it's on my cell phone. Otherwise I'd have a camera facing down on top of this. So yeah. Okay, now you kind of want to start with your first one and pull it up and move on to your last one. You just lift them up and let them flop out. I have a bucket here and I reuse all of my cups and sticks over and over. Can you see some amazing things happening? I think I can see some of it on the camera there. I'll bring this up to the camera the best I can to show you. There are a lot of different things happening here, a lot of cells trying to form. You can see in the first cups that I pulled off what cells are actually starting to form. The inside of the cups look amazing too. See? Nope, can't see. I wonder why that one's so dark. So I apologize for the poor lighting and the far away camera angle. Yeah. All right, so now that I have all of this paint on here, this is the part where you can tilt your canvas and move it around. It's very heavy. See what's happening there? I'm really happy with this one. Wow. Yeah. There is so much paint on here. You just want to keep moving it around. Until you're happy with the design. Can you hear it running into the plastic? This one I'm really stretching the colors. It's amazing. The cells are popping up. I think I'm gonna like it. And I can see quite a few bubbles. So I am going to give this a torch. There are all kinds of ways to do this. Some people use strings and pull strings through. Some people will pour it, lift it up, and just let it sit still. But the important thing is that this level remains that this painting remains very level while it's drying. I learned this the hard way. I painted that coffee table twice because the first time I did it, I went to bed and it looked amazing. And when I got up in the morning, all of the paint had run off onto the floor. So it's very important that you make sure your painting is level or you will lose all of your paint. I'm gonna tip this just a couple more times. It just keeps moving and morphing. All right, I'm gonna torch this and pop the bubbles. Now, all right, this is not museum quality paint, so if you do want something that will last the rest of your life, you'll want to research what high quality paint is with longevity. Paint all has a different specific gravity, so you can accomplish these cells without silicone, which will make the painting last for many, many years. So have fun, experiment, play around, and we'll watch the cells pop.